When I saw the police at the factory gate, my heart stopped. 2 officers, in their official uniforms, were entering with notebooks in their hands. "Señora Delgado, may we see your work permit? We received a complaint. It was said there was disorder." My hands trembled. For 25 years, I had this nightmare every night. Police at the door. "Where are your papers?" Then handcuffs, deportation. But now, I was a legal citizen here. Since 2005, I showed them the permit. Everything was in order. But inside me, that old fear was coiling like a snake. The police left. I tried to breathe. Then the door opened again. My son Hector walked in with that strange smile. "See, Mama? One phone call, and your life can turn into hell. Now think. What if I call immigration next time? I could say, 'My mother's citizenship is fake.' Would they believe a Mexican woman or me who was born here?" There was no conscience in his eyes, only calculation. "You're going to sign those factory transfer papers. OR. I'll tell everyone your little secret." At that moment, my chest tightened, but my face remained expressionless. Inside, I thought, "Well, mijito, you're trying to embarrass me. But you're forgetting one thing. I've kept every document for 25 years, every signature, every record, and you'll soon realize you're messing with the wrong woman. My name is Socorro Delgado, but everyone calls me Coco. I'm 53 years old. 25 years ago, I came from Mexico with nothing. I did cleaning jobs, sold tortillas on the street, then started a factory. These days, I employ 15 people, and today, my own son is threatening me with the thing I fear most, my past. But there's something he doesn't know. I'm not afraid anymore, because that past isn't something to be ashamed of. That past is my strength. After Hector left, I was alone in the factory. The hum of the machines usually calmed me, that rhythmic sound, the pressing of the tortilla dough, the smell of warm corn. But today, everything felt suffocating. I went into the office. I picked up the old photo sitting on the desk. Hector was 5 years old. We had taken it in front of the first tortilla press I bought. We were both smiling. Hector's words, "Who would believe you?" A Mexican woman? As if I were second class, as if my past were a stain. Those words weighed heavily on me. Yet that past, 25 years ago, was my story of survival. I remember the first night, July 1999. It was midnight when I arrived in Corpus Christi. When I got out of the truck bed, my legs wouldn't hold me. I had been curled up, hiding, trying to breathe for 12 hours. I only had a small bag with me. Inside were a few clothes, some money, about $200, my entire savings, and a photo of little Hector. He was 3 years old at the time, staying with my mother in Mexico. "When will you come back, Mama?" he had asked as I left. "Very soon, mi amor. I'll earn money, then I'll bring you with me." But the truth was, I didn't know. Maybe I would never be able to take him. Maybe I would never see him again. The first week, I found a job at a cleaning company. Night shift, cleaning office buildings, $5 an hour, cash in hand, no questions asked, no paperwork. Every night, I worked from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. I cleaned toilets, mopped floors, picked up trash. My hands would swell from the cheap chemicals. My back would ache from bending over. But every night, I thought the same thing. For Hector. To bring Hector here. For a year, I saved every penny. I found the cheapest room I could rent, $200 a month, a basement, damp, no windows. But I didn't care. For food, I bought discounted items past their expiration date from the supermarket. I bought nothing for myself. And after a year, I managed to save enough money. My mother brought Hector to the border. A smuggler carried him. He was 4 years old, scared and crying. When I held him in my arms a year later, he had grown so much I almost didn't recognize him. "Mamá?" he asked, hesitation in his voice. "Sí, mi cielo. I'm here now. We'll always be together." That night, in the basement, as I put him to sleep, I stroked his hair. "I promise you, Hector, we'll have a good life, here, in America." And that promise became the motto of my entire life. Now, looking at that photo, I remember that 4-year-old boy, the boy who asked, "Mama, when are you coming?" But now, that boy has become the man who says, "Who would believe you? A Mexican woman." Where did I lose him? During that year of separation? Or here, in America? While raising him to be a true American? I don't know. All I know is that child is gone. When he said, "You'll hand over that factory to me," he spoke as if the factory had been built easily and I had become rich by chance. That factory was built with blood, sweat, and tears. It was 2009. I had been working in cleaning jobs for 10 years. But one day, I noticed something. On Saturdays at the local market, people were lining up for handmade tortillas. A Mexican lady was making fresh tortillas at a small stall. People preferred to buy from her rather than from the supermarket. Maybe I can do that too, I thought. But how? I had no money. I had no equipment. I only had my knowledge, my mother's recipe, the technique I learned as a child. With my savings, $5,000, 10 years worth, I bought an old dough machine. It was used, broken, but I managed to get it working with a little repair. In our small kitchen, I started making tortillas day and night. Hector was in high school at the time. When he came home from school, the kitchen was filled with smoke, and I was sweating, standing by the machine. "Mom, what are you doing?" "The house is going to burn down." "I'm making tortillas, mijo. I'll take them to the market on Saturday." But why are you doing this?" "You already have a job." "Because, Hector, one day I want us to have our own business. You're going to college. You'll need money." Hector frowned. "I don't want to go to college. I want to be a car salesman." "No, son. You deserve better. You're going to get an education." The first Saturday I set up my stall at the market. No one came. I waited for hours. Only 3 people came. I made $15, but I didn't give up. Every week I kept going to the same place. Slowly, customers started coming. People began saying, "Señora Socorro's tortillas are the freshest." A year later, the owner of a local market came. "Señora, would you sell wholesale to our market?" That moment was a turning point in my life. "Yes, but I need a bigger kitchen." I took out a small loan. It was risky. If I couldn't pay it back, I could lose everything. But I took the risk, and I rented a small shop. I bought equipment. I hired my first employee, Señora Martinez, who was also an undocumented immigrant. I gave her an opportunity, just as one had been given to me. Within 3 years, I grew the business. 5 employees, 3 markets, then 10 employees, 10 markets. And in 2015, I managed to buy my own factory. It was small, but it was mine. That day, I told Hector, "Look, mijo, this factory is your future. One day, you will run this place. But first, finish your university." Hector looked at the factory. "Mama, this is amazing, but I want to forge my own path." "All right, mijo, but know that this is for you." Now, sitting in my office, I remember that day. "This is for you," I said, but he understood it as, "This is my right." When I said, "This is an opportunity for you," he heard, "You owe me this." Hector's voice rang in my ears again. "Citizenship is fake." As if my legal right were some kind of deception. Getting that citizenship was the proudest moment of my life. I remember it was 2005. The amnesty program had been announced. Undocumented immigrants could apply through legal channels, but I was afraid of being rejected. What if I get deported? Hector was 10 years old at the time. Mamá, apply. You always said, one day I'll be legal. He was right, but fear was much stronger. I went to a lawyer, Señor Ramos. He was old, experienced, and also a Cuban immigrant. Señora Socorro, your situation is ideal for applying. You've lived here for 10 years, paid taxes, have no criminal record. Your application will be approved. But I came here illegally at first. Isn't that a crime? Señor Ramos smiled. No, señora. Surviving is not a crime. And now, you have the chance to correct it legally. The application process took 3 years. Every day, I checked the mailbox. Every envelope felt like a heart attack. And in 2008, a letter arrived. Your application has been approved. Citizenship ceremony, March 15th, 2008. When I read that letter, my knees buckled. I sat down on the floor and cried. The fear I had lived with for 10 years was finally over. On the day of the ceremony, Hector came with me. He was 13. In the courtroom, with 100 other people in front of the American flag, I took the oath. I hereby declare, on oath, that I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance. As I spoke the words, my voice trembled. But that trembling wasn't from fear. It was from pride. After the ceremony, Hector hugged me. Congratulations, Mamá. Now you're a real American. A real American. Those words meant so much to me. I was now a legal citizen. On the way home, I said to Hector, Look, mijo, today is my 2nd birthday. Today, I became free. Mamá, you were always free. This is just a piece of paper. No, Hector. It's not just a piece of paper, it's my honor. Now, years later, he uses all of this as a weapon against me. Hector says, Your citizenship is fake. But the truth is, that citizenship is my greatest achievement. And if he sees it as a stain, the problem is with him, not me. Every sacrifice was for him. Every decision was for his future. But now he says to me, You're Mexican. Who would believe you? He only saw the result. He didn't see the process. He didn't see my struggle. He didn't see my tears. He saw the factory. But he didn't see the hands that built it. And now, he doesn't need to see, because I don't have to prove it to him anymore. I'll prove it to society, and in the end, he'll see. Yes, I am a Mexican woman, but I'm also an American woman. Most importantly, I'm a strong woman. The days after the police left were like a nightmare. Every morning, I noticed something was wrong at the factory. Small things, an order missing, a machine broken, an employee tense. Slowly, I began to understand. These weren't coincidences. It was sabotage. The first blow came a week later. 5 stores belonging to our biggest customer, the Gonzalez Market chain, called. Señora Socorro, we're sorry, but we're canceling the order. My heart started racing. Why? Is there a problem? No, it's just we found another supplier. A younger, more modern company. Younger, more modern. After I hung up, one of the employees, Maria, came over to me. She looked worried. Señora, I need to tell you something. Yesterday, Señor Hector came. He spoke with the owner of Gonzalez Market. I heard him say, My mother can't manage the business anymore. She's making mistakes. He showed him a fake complaint. I was devastated. Was Hector stealing my customers? Are you sure, Maria? Yes, Señora. And one more thing. He prepared a fake document with your signature. I want to hand over the business, it said. A fake signature, fake documents. That day, I went to the office, turned on the computer, and when I checked my emails, I saw messages sent in my name. Messages to customers saying, "I'm retiring. My son is taking over." But I hadn't sent those messages. Hector had hacked my email account. Or he had found my password. It was probably very simple. Hector's birthday. How stupid of me. I picked up the phone. I called Hector. "What are you doing, Hector?" "Why are you lying to my customers?" "Lies, mamá. I'm just telling the truth. You're tired now. You're making mistakes. Your customers can see it." "I haven't made any mistakes. You're sabotaging me." "Mamá, you're imagining things. Maybe you really need to rest. Maybe you should see a doctor." "Hector, stop, please. This is my life. This factory isn't yours anymore. Either you hand it over to me or you watch it disappear. The choice is yours." And he hung up. That night, at home, in the dark, I cried. For the first time in 25 years, I thought about giving up. Maybe he was right. Maybe I really was tired. Maybe I should have given up. But then I looked at the factory from the window. From a distance, the building's lights were visible. MY building, MY work. No, it's not over yet. The second blow was more personal. It came 10 days later. That day, my neighbor, Señora Alvarez, came to my door. She had a strange look on her face. "Socorro, I need to talk to you." I let her in. I made coffee, but she didn't touch it. "Socorro, yesterday at church, I saw Hector's wife, Ashley. She was talking to a group of women about you." My heart sank. What was she saying? "My mother-in-law is an immigrant," she said. "She came illegally, but she managed to hide it. Now she claims to be a citizen, but she got her citizenship with fake documents. We need to be on our guard. She might be deceiving others too." Blood rushed to my head. My ears rang. "Ashley, is she telling everyone this?" "She told a few people. But you know, Corpus Christi is a small town. Rumors spread fast. That day, when I went to the market, I noticed. People's looks were different. Some didn't smile. Some quickly changed direction. The cashier at the register, who I'd said hello to for 2 years, was cold. "Total is $47. Señora, are you okay? Is there a problem?" "Your total is $47, she repeated, avoiding my eyes. I understood. The rumor had started to spread. On my way home, my phone rang. An unknown number. "Mrs. Delgado? I'm a reporter for the local newspaper. We're writing a story about your immigrant background. Would you like to comment?" "A reporter. A story. Who gave you this information?" "The source is confidential. But allegedly, your citizenship was obtained with false documents. Is that true?" "No, that's completely false. I came through legal channels." "Then why did you hide your immigrant background for so many years?" "I hid it. Because I was ashamed. Because I was afraid. Because society might not accept me." But I couldn't give that answer. I just said, "No comment," and hung up. That night, I checked the newspaper online. It hadn't been published yet, but I knew it would be soon. And then, everyone, the whole town, would learn my secret. Hector's plan was working. He was tarnishing me in society, driving away my customers, destroying my reputation, and I was watching, helplessly. The third blow was the cruelest. It came 2 weeks later. That day, when I went to the factory, the workers were in a meeting. All of them looked worried. "What's going on?" I asked. Maria stepped forward. She had a document in her hand. "Señora, a man came this morning. He said he was a lawyer. He left this document. I took the document. I read the title. Notice of workplace closure. Health and safety violations. I read the contents, the allegations, inadequate hygiene standards, risk to worker safety, food production license questionable. It was all lies. My factory complied with all standards. It passed regular inspections. Who sent this? The lawyer said in response to a complaint, but he didn't say who complained. Who? Same question again. Same answer again. Hector. But this time, he had gone further. He wasn't just targeting my customers. Now he was targeting my entire business. That afternoon, the health inspectors came. They inspected the factory. They checked every corner. 3 hours later, the result. No violations. The complaint is unfounded. I was relieved, but at the same time, I was angry. So who filed the complaint? Anonymous. But legally, we have to investigate. Anonymous, of course. That night, Hector called. Mamá, I heard there was an inspection at the factory. Is everything okay? There was fake concern in his voice. You did it, didn't you? You filed the complaint. Mom, why would you think that? I'm your son. I want what's best for you. No, Hector. You want my factory, and to get it, you'll do anything. Mom, you're being paranoid. Maybe you really are getting sick. Maybe I should take you to a doctor. A mental health check. Mental health check. The next step. Show me as mentally unfit and get legal guardianship. No, I won't go to the doctor, and I won't give up the factory. Then there's no other option, Mom. Tomorrow, the newspaper comes out. Headline: Illegal immigrant business owner. I'll tell everyone. Your little secret. And she hung up the phone. That night, I didn't sleep at all. Until morning, in the dark, I stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, the newspaper would come out. Everyone would find out. And then, my job would be over. My reputation would be ruined. Maybe Hector would win. Maybe I would lose. That thought suffocated me. There was a weight on my chest. I couldn't breathe. My God, what am I going to do? But there was no answer. Only silence. And in that silence, I decided to give up. Fine. Hector won. I'll give him the factory. Let's just end this. But then, something happened. At 6 a.m, the phone rang. It was Señor Ramos, the old lawyer. Socorro, I saw the newspaper. The story will be published in an hour. But listen, this is an opportunity for you. An opportunity? They'll humiliate me. No. You'll tell your own story before they do. Give the newspaper an interview. Tell the truth. Your immigrant past, your struggle, the founding of the factory, everything. But Señor Ramos, who will believe me? Who will listen? Everyone, because you will tell the truth. But I'm ashamed. I came without papers, illegally. Stop. Ramos's voice was sharp and clear. Socorro, you didn't do anything illegal. You were trying to survive. You were trying to feed your family, and then you obtained citizenship legally. That's not a crime. That's courage. Courage. That word was one I hadn't heard in years. But society needs to hear your story, not just illegal immigrant. Survivor. Tell it. Tell your story. Don't let Hector's lies stand. After hanging up the phone, I looked in the mirror. There were dark circles under my eyes. My face was pale, but in my eyes, there was a spark. Maybe Ramos was right. Maybe the time for hiding was over. That morning, I called the newspaper. I'm Socorro Delgado. Tomorrow's news is about me, but first I want you to interview me. The reporter was surprised. You want to give an interview? Yes, because I want to tell the truth of my story. 2 hours later, the reporter came to my office, a young woman with a notebook and a voice recorder. Senora Delgado, shall we begin? About your history as an immigrant. I took a breath, and I began. In 1999, I came from Mexico, undocumented. I had a 3-year-old son, no money, no connections. The only thing I had was my will to survive. And I told her everything. The 12 hours I spent in the back of a truck, my first night living in the basement, my cleaning jobs, the story of how I brought Hector here, the tortilla stand, the factory, my journey to citizenship, everything. The reporter listened. She took notes, and finally she asked, Senora, your son Hector claims your citizenship is fake. How do you respond to that? At that moment, I faced the truth. My son is lying. My citizenship was obtained legally. Here are the documents. I pulled all the papers out from under the table. The amnesty document, the citizenship certificate, Senor Ramos's signature, everything. So why is your son doing this? Because he wants my factory. And to corner me, he's using the thing I fear most, my past. Aren't you afraid? Saying these things? I paused. I thought, I am afraid. But I'm more afraid of hiding now. Because hiding means they win. The interview was over. The reporter thanked me and left. And I was left there, alone in the office. But this time, as a different woman. I was no longer a victim. I was no longer hiding. I was a woman who had decided to fight. The next day, the newspaper was published. But the headline was different from what I expected. A story of courage, from immigrant to entrepreneur, Socorro Delgado's journey. The story was about me. But it wasn't a crime story. It was a success story. Senora Delgado arrived 25 years ago with nothing. Today she employs 15 people and serves the community. This is the American dream itself. And at the bottom, a note. However, Senora Delgado's son is questioning his mother's citizenship and trying to take over the factory. Is it a family feud or a financial conspiracy? The investigation continues. When I read that newspaper, tears streamed down my face. But this time, not out of shame, out of pride, because for the first time, my voice had been heard. The phone started ringing, customers, neighbors, old friends. Socorro, we read the news, how brave you are. Doña Socorro, you are an inspiration to us. And most importantly, a call came from Gonzales Market. Senora, we apologize. We want to take back the order. It's an honor to work with you. That day, at the factory, the workers applauded. Maria hugged me and cried, Senora, we always believed in you. And now, everyone believes. But that night, the real moment of decision came. Hector called. His voice was angry. What have you done, mamá? You told the newspaper everything. You've disgraced me. No, Hector. I only told the truth. You're the one who's disgraced. You lied to me. You threatened me. You tried to ruin your own mother with lies. But I'm your son. How could you do this? That question pierced my heart. But I wasn't softening anymore. You're not my son anymore, Hector. You're a stranger who exploited me. And now, I'm fighting against you in front of everyone. Fine. We'll see each other in court. The factory will be mine. Come, Hector. Let's go to court. But know this time, you'll lose. Because the truth is on my side. And I hung up the phone. That night, I looked in the mirror. The woman I saw was no longer hiding. She was someone who spoke openly, proud of her truth, learning to fight. And tomorrow, that woman would win. Because I, Socorro Delgado, was no longer ashamed. I was proud, and a proud woman is unbeatable. The day after the newspaper was published, Senor Ramos came to my office. He had a briefcase in his hand and determination in his eyes. Socorro, it's time for strategy. Hector is threatening to go to court. We need to be prepared. We sat down at the table. Ramos took some files out of his briefcase. First, I checked all your legal documents. Your citizenship is solid, no problem. Hector's fake claim is completely baseless. But he could say other things, like, my mother can't run the business, she's not of sound mind. That's why we need to gather evidence. Everything. Hector's sabotage, his fake documents, the lies he tells customers, all of it. That day, we started the list. We noted everything Hector had done. Attempts to drive away customers, fake health complaints, hacking email accounts, spreading lies in the community. But how will I prove these things? I asked. Witnesses, statements from employees, customers, and maybe you should start gathering evidence too. I remembered then, years ago when I was undocumented, I had a habit of recording everything. Every document, every receipt, every note, I kept them all, out of fear of deportation. Senor Ramos, I like to record everything. Maybe there are records at the factory too. Like what? Delivery records, modified orders, email history, everything. Ramos smiled. That's it. Find those records. Gather them all. But that night, at home, my conscience started talking. The TV was on, but I wasn't watching it. I was just looking at the photos on the wall. Hector, age 5. Hector, age 10. Hector, graduating from high school. In every photo, I was there beside him, smiling. And in that moment, but he's my son. I'm fighting my own son. Is that right? That question bothered me all night. The next morning, I called Hector. Hector, I want to talk to you, face to face. Why, mamá? We'll talk in court. Please, mijo, 1 hour, just the two of us. There was silence. Then, okay. This afternoon, at the factory. At 3 p.m, Hector arrived. He was wearing a suit, as if he were coming to a business meeting. His face was cold. In the office, we sat across from each other. Hector, please listen. I don't want to give you the factory, but maybe we can find a solution. Maybe we can work together. You learn. I'll teach you then. Mama, stop. He cut me off. I've been telling you for years, let's work together. You always said, you're not ready yet. Now it's too late. I'll get a court order. The factory will be mine. But Hector, this is my life. You really... Your life? His voice rose. Mama, you always lived for yourself. You said, I'm working for Hector. But really, you worked for yourself. To satisfy your own ego. Ego. That word hit me like a slap in the face. No, Hector. I did it for you. For me? What about my childhood? You were always working. You weren't home. You weren't at school plays. You even had client meetings on my birthdays. That accusation pierced my chest like an arrow. Because it was true. I had worked hard. Maybe too hard. But Hector, I was trying to give you a good life. Not a good life, Mama. You gave me money, but you never gave yourself. My eyes filled with tears, because those words were my deepest fear, the fear that I was a bad mother. I'm sorry, mijo, if I neglected you. It's too late, Mama. Apologies aren't enough now. The factory, my compensation. It's my right. And just like that, he got up and left. I was left there, alone. And those accusations spun around in my mind. Maybe he's right. Maybe I was a bad mother. Maybe I should give him the factory. As compensation. The thought was powerful. Very tempting. That night, I went to Señora Alvarez, my neighbor, my closest friend. Socorro, you look sad. What happened? I told her everything. My conversation with Hector, his accusations, my conscience. Maybe he's right, Senora. Maybe I was a bad mother. I always worked. I couldn't spend time with him. Senora Alvarez held my hand. Socorro, you weren't a perfect mother, because there's no such thing as a perfect mother, but you did the best you could. You raised a child on your own. You built a business. You gave him opportunities. But he says I did it for myself, for my ego. And maybe he's a little right. But is that a bad thing? Is a woman taking pride in her own success ego? Or is it strength? I paused. I thought. But Socorro, look. What Hector said is about the past. But what he's doing now is completely different. He's threatening you, sabotaging you, lying. This isn't a son complaining that my mother didn't make time for me. This is a man's plan to exploit his mother. She was right. The past and the present were different. If you give him the factory, it won't make up for it. It will send him the message that he was right, that manipulation works. That night, on my way home, I made a decision. Yes, maybe I wasn't a perfect mother. But that doesn't justify what Hector is doing now. The next day, at the factory, I went to the archive room. Years of documents, files, everything was there. I called Maria. Maria, pull up all the delivery records for the last 6 months, especially the days Hector was here. We worked for hours, and we found it. On the days Hector came to the factory, there were errors in the orders. Deliveries were delayed. But those days were never coincidental. They were all Hector's sabotage. Then I checked the computer records, my email account. Someone had logged in from Hector's IP address, the date, the very day the "I'm retiring" messages were sent to customers. But still, something was missing. I had to prove that Hector had forged the document. That evening, I asked Senor Ramos, "Senor, how can we prove Hector used a forged signature?" A document expert can do a signature analysis, but first, we have to find that forged document, the fake document. Hector's Socorro Delgado wants to transfer the factory document. Where will I find it? Hector will probably use it in court. But maybe he showed it to someone before, to customers, to the bank. Clients, Gonzalez Market. The next day, I called the market owner, Senor Gonzalez. "Senor, do you remember canceling our order a few weeks ago? Did Hector show you a document?" "Yes, he did. A piece of paper saying, 'My mother is transferring the business to me,' with your signature. Do you have a copy of that document?" "Hold on, let me check." 5 minutes later, an email arrived, a PDF file. I opened it, and I saw my signature, but I had never signed that document. I showed it to Senor Ramos. "This is fake. Let's send it for signature analysis." 2 days later, the results came. The signature was digitally added. It is not original. We had proof of the forged document. But that night, my conscience spoke again. I looked at the photo on the wall. In my arms, that tiny baby. Eyes closed, peaceful, so innocent. What happened to that baby? I thought. When did he turn into this man? Hector was 13 years old. A note came from school. Hector assaulted a classmate. I went to the principal's office. "Hector, why did you hit him?" "Because he called me poor. He said, 'Your mom is Mexican, so you're poor too.'" My heart ached. "Mijo, we're not poor. We just work." "But mamá, the other kids' families live in big houses. They have cars. I have nothing." "You have everything, Hector. My love, my hard work. Does love bring food? Does love buy a car?" Those words shocked me. Was this how a 13-year-old child thought? "Hector, money isn't everything." "It is for you, mamá. You always work for money. instead of spending time with me. That day, I promised him, "Okay, mijo. This weekend, it's just you and me. We're going on a picnic." But that weekend, a big order came in. I couldn't cancel it. "Hector, I'm sorry. Next weekend, I promise." But the next weekend, something else came up. And the next, and the next. We never went on that picnic. Now, remembering that moment, I understand. Maybe Hector has thought money is everything ever since that day. Because I taught him that, even though I didn't mean to. And now, that lesson is being used against me. But the next morning, something else happened, and it reignited my anger. When I went to the factory, one of the workers, Rosa, was crying. "Señora, Hector came. He told me, if you keep working with my mother, I'll fire you. I need this job for my family. What should I do?" Was Hector now threatening my workers? Anger boiled inside me. "Rosa, don't worry. Hector can't fire you, because he doesn't own this place." But Rosa's fear was evident in her eyes. That day, I gathered all the workers. "Friends, I know Hector is making threats, but know this, I am here and I am fighting, and no one will take your jobs away, I promise." They applauded. But there was also anxiety in that applause. That evening, I said to Señor Ramos, "Enough is enough. Hector is targeting not just me, but innocent people too. We have to stop him." "So what are we going to do?" "A public confrontation. In front of everyone, with all the evidence." "When?" "In 2 weeks. The city's Small Business Award ceremony. My factory will receive the Small Business of the Year award. The whole town will be there." "And Hector?" "He'll be there too. Because I'll invite him." Ramos smiled. "A bold plan, but risky. Hector might try to sabotage you there too." "I know. But I'm not hiding anymore. I'll tell the truth, in front of everyone." That night, I called Hector. "Hector, will you come to the awards ceremony? I want you to be there with me." There was silence. Then, in a suspicious voice, "Why?" "Because you're my son, and I want to share my success with you." "Mom, is this a trap?" "No, son. Just, maybe we can make peace. One last chance." Hector hesitated, but his ego won out. "Okay, I'll come. But know that the court case is still ongoing." "I know." When I hung up, Ramos looked at me. "Are you ready?" "This is a path of no return." "Yes, because I'm not afraid anymore. Of my past, of Hector, of society." "So, is your speech ready?" "No, but I'll prepare it." The next 2 weeks were intense. Every day I wrote my speech, deleted it, rewrote it. I organized all the evidence. Señor Ramos checked every detail. And one night at home, I practiced in front of the mirror. "My name is Socorro Delgado. 25 years ago, I came from Mexico. Afraid. But today, I am not afraid, because my story is not something to be ashamed of. It is something to be proud of." The words flowed from my mouth, but still, my conscience whispered silently, "But Hector is your son. You're going to ruin him." I stopped. I looked in the mirror. No, I'm not ruining him. He made his own choices. I'm just telling the truth. And in that moment, I understood. The conflict in my conscience would never end. There would always be that voice saying, "But he's my son." But now, that voice would not stop me, because I, Socorro Delgado, was no longer just a mother. I was a warrior, and tomorrow, I would go to war, with all my weapons, with all my truths, and I would win, because the truth always wins. On the night of the award ceremony, the city hall was aglow. Corpus Christi's entire business community, local politicians, journalists, Everyone was there. The hall was packed with hundreds of people. I was in the backstage room looking at myself in the mirror. I was wearing a blue dress, simple but elegant. My hair was up, my makeup light, but most importantly, my eyes were determined. Señor Ramos was standing next to me. He was holding a folder containing all the evidence. "Socorro, are you ready?" I took a breath. Yes, I'm scared, but I'm ready. "Is Hector here?" "Yes, he's sitting in the hall, with Ashley, in the front row." Of course in the front row, to watch me from the best seats. When the ceremony began, the mayor took the stage, speeches, awards, applause, and finally, and now, this year's most special award, Small Business of the Year. This award is given not only for business success, but also for contribution to the community. And this year, the winner is Delgado Tortilla Factory and its owner, Señora Socorro Delgado. Applause rose. The spotlight turned to me. I walked onto the stage. With every step, my heartbeat echoed in my ears. But I had a smile on my face. The president handed me the crystal plaque. We shook hands. Then the microphone was handed to me. "Señora Delgado, would you like to say a few words?" I took the microphone. I looked out at the hall. Hundreds of eyes were focused on me, and I saw Hector. In the front row, arms crossed, a strange smile on his face. It was as if he was saying, "Let's see what you have to say." I took a breath, and I began. "Gracias. This award is very special to me, because it's not just a business award, it's the award for a story." I paused. I looked around the hall. 25 years ago, when I came to this town, I had nothing. I was an undocumented immigrant. I lived in fear, but I had a dream: to give my son a good life. Hector shifted in his seat. "And for years I worked. I cleaned, I sold tortillas, I started a business. With every step, I was afraid. What if I get caught? What if I get deported?" But I kept going. My eyes filled with tears, but I continued. In 2008, I became a citizen through legal channels. That day was the proudest day of my life. I was no longer in the shadows. I was free. Applause rose. But recently, someone tried to use my past, to blackmail me, to tarnish me in the community, and that person was my son. The room was shocked. Silence fell. Hector jumped to his feet. "Mamá, what are you doing?" But I continued. "My son Hector tried to take my factory by portraying me as an illegal immigrant with fake citizenship. He lied to my customers. He sabotaged my business. And he tried to disgrace me in society." Señor Ramos brought a projector onto the stage. The evidence was projected onto the screen. Here are the documents with forged signatures, prepared by Hector, documents stating, "My mother will transfer the factory," but I never signed them. Second slide, email records. Here are messages sent from my account, but from Hector's IP address. Third slide, delivery sabotages. Here are the coincidental errors that occurred on the days Hector came to the factory. Each piece of evidence was a bomb, the room filled with whispers. Hector tried to walk toward the stage. "Stop! These are lies! He's sick! He's confused!" Security guards approached Hector. "Señor Delgado, please sit down. Let him continue." Hector sat down helplessly. Ashley, her face bright red, tried to leave the room. I turned and looked at the room. "I'm telling this story because being an immigrant is nothing to be ashamed of. Surviving is not a crime, and no child should have their parents' past used as a weapon." My voice trembled, but I strengthened it. "Hector, if you're listening, I won't give you the factory, because you don't deserve it. Nothing gained through threats, lies, and manipulation is valuable." The room stood up and began to applaud. Me, Socorro Delgado, the immigrant woman, the survivor. Hector sat in the hall, head bowed, defeated, and as I left the stage for the first time in 25 years, I felt completely free. A month later, the court ruling came down. Hector's guardianship request was denied. The judge said, "Señora Delgado is of sound mind. Her son's claims are fabricated for financial gain." Additionally, Hector was given a restraining order. He couldn't go near the factory or threaten his mother. Ashley filed for divorce. Hector was left alone. He called me once, crying. "Mama, I'm sorry, I was in so much debt, I was desperate." But an apology wasn't enough anymore. "Hector, maybe one day I'll forgive you, but not now. Now, you need to fix your own life, and I need to live mine." I hung up the phone, and I didn't shed a tear. Today, we're having a new team meeting at the factory, 15 employees all here, and one new addition, a young woman, Maria's daughter, Lupita, 19 years old, a university student. "Lupita, welcome. Here, you will both work and learn." "Thank you, Doña Socorro. My mother speaks highly of you. You are my inspiration, a source of inspiration. For years, I was just Hector's mother. Then I became the immigrant woman. Now, I'm becoming a source of inspiration." This morning, I'm sitting on the balcony, coffee in hand, the sun caressing my face. The factory is visible in the distance. My factory. It's still mine. The phone rings, an unknown number. "Hello? Señora Delgado? I'm a documentary filmmaker. I heard your story. We'd like to make a documentary. From immigrant to entrepreneur. A documentary. My story will inspire others." "I need to think about it," I say. But inside, I'm smiling. After hanging up, I look in the mirror. I see a 53-year-old woman. Her hair is white, her face wrinkled. But in her eyes, there is a light. Strength, pride, freedom. Because I, Socorro Delgado, am no longer hiding. I am no longer afraid. I am proud of my story, and this story is just beginning.